What flies alongside an airplane at 40,000 feet and can change shape like that?
And as a mysterious object appears over China, has the secretive government released the truth through a best-selling book?
The three-body problem tells a terrifying story of alien contact and an alien invasion of Earth.
The question I have is, are the Chinese aware of something?
UFOs, once the stuff of fantasy, now caught on camera, finally forcing governments to reveal what they know.
UAPs are unexplained, but they are real.
Many of these phenomena have been cited in training ranges. We're very much concerned about safety of flight.
So let's just speculate for one moment that these things, whatever they are here to do not very good things.
Impossible engineering, terrifying encounters, sinister cover-ups. This is evidence of the unexplained. October 2021, Springfield, Missouri, USA.
There's something going on here.
A local man sees something inexplicable in the sky over his home city.
Justin Johnson is driving to his home when he sees something in the sky hovering over some stores they just can't explain.
He pulls over and starts filming on his camera phone.
Check this out.
Justin says that once he was at the closest that he possibly could be to this object in the sky, it resembled a metal cube.
I'm on Glenstone in Springfield, Missouri. That is a cube spinning on an axis, flickering. It's got lights around it in the middle of the day.
Justin described it as rotating in multiple directions. At least that's what it looked like to him from the ground.
That thing's a cube with lights.
He said that it flew in a V-shaped arc over the city for around 3 minutes. It paused over downtown, and that was where he was able to capture video of it.
It's jumping back and forth.
Justin says that after seeing the object, he felt haunted because, unlike a balloon, for example, it was traveling against the wind.
Soon after his video was uploaded, other people from all over America came forward with similar accounts.
One viewer commented that they'd seen a similar object in LA that same week. Someone in Texas reported seeing the same object twice.
In Colombia in 2020, a pilot reported seeing an object which he said was cube-like, black with very pronounced edges.
In each case, the cube shape is the key similarity, and cubes like this have been popping up all around the world. A cube shape seems the most unlikely for a UFO. I mean, it's not very aerodynamic. And with this being a cube, it's unlikely that's a misrepresentation of a bird or an aircraft.
Is it possible this bizarre flying cube could be man-made? NASA has developed a metal cuboid robot which floats in outer space. It's used on the International Space Station. But a cube can float in the gravity-free vacuum of space. In our atmosphere, a cube should simply fall to the ground.
To see it flying through the air at this speed is like some kind of joke of physics. In flight, the flow of air that hits an object divides into two, essentially.
So flight happens because of the difference in air pressure from the top of the object to the bottom of the object.
The difference arises because of the way air moves around a flying object.
But like all forces, there's an equal and opposite force. And for lift, that's drag. So the more lift, the more drag.
For a cube to be flying through the air implies a technology that hasn't been made public, if indeed it exists at all at this point. For it to be achieving those speeds, that kind of propulsion, would suggest that it's operating under an anti-gravity pocket, and we don't have that kind of technology.
Unnerved by what he'd seen, Johnson contacted the Federal Aviation Authority. But they told him that they'd had no other reports of anything untoward in Springfield on that day.
Springfield, Missouri is home to a number of offices of different branches of the military, including the Marines, and there's also an office of the Department of Homeland Security. So I'm wondering if what we're seeing here might be some sort of new military-based technology.
I don't think this is a test. The United States has huge areas of open desert in Arizona, Utah, New Mexico, where they can conduct these kind of experiments, and they're hardly likely to do it over a built-up area of Missouri.
But there is one kind of secret experimental test flight that would make sense over a crowded city. With thousands of potential observers on the ground, an urban environment is the perfect place to see if an object can be made invisible.
Is the cube a mask or a cloak for the real craft that is hidden inside?
Invisibility cloaks sound like stuff from Harry Potter, but technology is bringing them closer to reality.
Invisibility is not as impossible as one might think. In 2013, Bail Zhang, a professor at Singapore's Nanyang Technological University, presented a small cube just a few inches in height.
Using two optical calcite crystals found in nature in the form of stalactites and stalagmites, the shape bends light and effectively disappears. Zhang says that he just made his cloaking cube for fun, but there are reports that the U.S. military is experimenting with similar methods for manipulating light to hide objects.
The government may have been testing an invisibility cube over its own cities in Texas, Missouri, and California. But this doesn't explain the sightings of similar objects all over the world, in countries like Colombia, where the technology risks getting shot down and falling into the hands of cartels. Johnson estimates the cube in the sky was around 15 to 20 feet wide, the size of a car, but not of a manned aircraft. If these are indeed UFOs, they seem too small to be carrying occupants.
If these objects are about 15 to 20 feet long, that would imply that they're unmanned. And that would give us a clue as to what they're really sent here for.
A smaller size would enable the craft to potentially accelerate to near the speed of light. Now that would make interstellar travel not only possible, but accessible.
When we think of alien spacecraft, we imagine enormous ships like the ominous megadiscs that hang over US cities in the movie Independence Day. But Professor Stephen Hawking, before he died in 2018, proposed sending a tiny craft to explore Alpha Centauri, our nearest neighboring solar system, over 4 light-years away from Earth. Advances in microcircuitry mean a probe the size of a mobile phone could be the first spaceship sent to another star. Hawking proposed it be powered by a laser beam and would make the journey in just 20 years. Perhaps cubes this size could be microcraft from another civilization. Probes beaming back information to aliens on another star system. That's why we see so many of them.
When nature propagates life, it doesn't just go for one big shot. It sends out millions of seeds, giving it a chance to replicate. If we apply that principle then to interstellar travel, could we be looking at some kind of nano spaceship with nanotechnology?
Hungarian mathematician John von Neumann proposed we would be visited exactly this way in his 1948 universal assemblers theory of self-replicating robots capable of interstellar travel.
If they're that technologically advanced and they've been able to find us here on Earth, could this be the beginning of friendly contact or a hostile invasion?
January 2019, Greensboro, North Carolina. A man films a mysterious cigar-shaped object flying over his house. He estimates it's over 100 meters long, the size of a football field.
No airships were reported over the area at the time, but then many cigar-shaped objects seen by observers are written off as man-made dirigibles.
The age of the flying saucer began in 1947, but before then, as man first took to the skies, there was a first age of UFOs, dominated by sightings of mystery cigar-shaped objects.
At the end of the 19th century and start of the 20th century, there was something of a wave of sightings of phantom airships across the world.
There were numerous bizarre reports of enormous zeppelins taking to the skies of America and Europe. The stories of these sightings and the peculiar encounters that witnesses described having with the occupants of these airships are strangely reminiscent of UFO stories from today.
The first official airship was launched in 1852 in France. But the craft reported over California in 1896 was unlike anything designed by humans.
Hundreds of witnesses claim to have seen this object flying about 1,000 feet above the ground. They said they saw a bright light, and some of them said that they could hear voices coming from what appeared to be a gondola. They also said that it appeared to be being propelled by two men pedaling.
Colonel H.G. Shaw claims when he encountered not only a landed craft, but also its occupants.
He says he saw with the occupants getting out, and they were very slender, very tall, and much more elongated than we mere ordinary human beings. And what he also claims is that they were Martians, and that they had tried to force him onto the craft, but he resisted, and they fled.
Shaw's account is strikingly similar to stories being reported all over America's southern states.
The airships became known as scare ships, and they were seen in Arkansas, Missouri, Texas, usually at night. There was a report that one of these airships had crashed, leaving behind a pilot who was badly disfigured, but clearly not of this world.
Anomalous aircraft, close encounters, crashes with humanoid bodies. All these bizarre details would become features of modern UFO stories. But in the 19th and early 20th century, American people were convinced they were the work of the Elon Musk of his day.
There were rumors that these mysterious airships were the invention of Thomas Edison, the American inventor and businessman.
These cigar-shaped objects appeared in the skies at a time when there was excitement about the benefits of air travel.
I hope confidently to succeed in starting a regular airship line between the United States and Europe by next summer.
Political commentators said it would improve relations between countries, and economists thought it would bring down the cost of goods.
Visionaries believed that travel would broaden the mind. As people from different countries and continents got to know each other, war would become a thing of the past.
But the utopianism soon gave way to fear.
As aviation became a reality, people started to become afraid, and they started to envision a far less rosy future for mankind.
And the fear was compounded in 1898 by the publication of H.G. Wells's best-selling science fiction novel, War of the Worlds, which depicted an attack on Earth by Martian spaceships.
After this, mysterious enemy aircraft and airships were being spotted in the skies above the United States, United Kingdom, New Zealand, and this led to what came to be referred to as the scare ship panic. As the great imperial powers rearmed ahead of the First World War, many people began to view these mysterious craft in the sky that were threatening them as obviously German.
But these scare ships were bigger, they were faster, and they were stronger than anything real engineers could produce at the time.
People described seeing giant rudders and gas bags and propellers.
Investigators concluded that many of the scare ship sightings were planets, stars, or hoaxes. But a small number of them couldn't be explained, which led to theories the craft could be visiting from elsewhere.
Many of the reports don't just describe a cigar-shaped object, they also put wings on these airships and many, many lights, bright lights. There were also multiple witnesses to some of these incidents.
What are we to make of these bizarre scare ships? In some ways, they resemble modern cigar-shaped UFOs. But in others, they have almost quaint features that would have seemed futuristic to people at the time, but now seem ridiculously dated. One school of UFO investigators believe the scare ships are evidence that the phenomenon we call UFOs has been shape-shifting throughout history.
As human technology has changed, what the Victorians saw, those ghost airships, have disappeared to be replaced with ghost rockets and spaceships. And what the Victorians saw inside those craft have been replaced with modern futuristic aliens.
Whether these are subjective or objective observations depends on whether the phenomena is real or just a form of social contagion reflecting culture at the time of the sightings.
Skeptical investigators say that these changing descriptions of the objects in the sky are proof that the phenomenon exists primarily in the human mind. A product of mass hysteria that manifests in different ways to different generations. But another theory is that the phenomenon is real and is constantly playing with our perceptions.
It's an idea put forward by the author John Keel in his book Operation Trojan Horse. He said the phenomenon is some kind of trickster of unknown intent that presents human witnesses with visions of strange and futuristic objects and creatures.
Keel claimed to find a pattern of similar trickster events going right back through history, including religious visions and weird events described in the Bible.
And of course, a lot of religions are based on that, on Armageddon. And it always seems like we're right on the edge of extinction, and we keep going. Like all the things that are happening in the Middle East are reasonably outlined in the Bible. And people who read the Bible carefully get scared to death. These things are coming to pass.
Why a non-human intelligence would fill the skies of the Victorian era with bizarre airships and the modern heavens with metallic spaceships is a mystery that perhaps we'll soon be able to answer.
Real or imagined, the Victorians and Edwardians were fascinated by ghostly objects in the sky, and it shows us that our modern interest in UFOs is nothing new. We today and our ancestors are both terrified by what might strike us from the skies.
July 2021. A German plane passenger looks out of his window and sees this.
This isn't what you'd think of as a normal UFO. Looks like some type of angelic apparition.
It's really quite beautiful. It's almost enough to make you believe in angels.
What flies alongside an airplane at 40,000 feet and can change shape like that? What is this thing?
I thought initially it could be some type of refraction from the camera lens, but the camera isn't pointed anywhere near towards the sun.
Has he captured a weird cloud or some fascinating trick of the light?
This thin and wispy entity could be mistaken for a cirrus cloud, formed of icy crystals at heights of over 19,000 feet. But its strange behavior certainly isn't consistent with the movement of a cirrus cloud.
It shifts and moves faster than any normal cloud. But clouds don't follow aircraft anyway.
We're not talking about something tangible here like a solid object. It appears to be gaseous.
The entity appears to travel alongside the airplane for 7 minutes, shifting and morphing all the while until it settles on a final form. And that appears to be some kind of angelic humanoid.
Supernatural religious imagery appearing in the skies has been reported throughout history. The Bible is filled with visions of angels appearing in the heavens. The most famous was the birth of Christ, when angelic beings are said to have appeared to shepherds on a hillside near Bethlehem. And in the 2 millennia since, these religious visions have been reported again and again. One of the most famous was in 1917.
In Fatima, Portugal, 3 peasant children kept seeing visions of the Virgin Mary. It became a regular event that year. It's said that the incident was witnessed by tens of thousands of people who gathered in the pouring rain to watch the clouds separating and the sun appearing as a white disk in the sky, and a giant fireball began to dance across the horizon in brilliant variety of colors. Some even said that the phenomenon dried out their clothes.
No authenticated photographs captured this event, despite the huge crowd that had come to see it. Scientists are suspicious.
Some modern meteorologists have said that this was actually a weather event known as a sundog, where light is refracted through particles in the upper atmosphere. These are not events that can be easily predicted mathematically, like a solar eclipse.
But weirdly, some of these visions have been reported in places where there is no weather or atmospheric events. In 1984, a group of 3 cosmonauts on board the Salyut 7 space station, 230 miles above the Earth, all say they witnessed an impossible sight.
The space station is bathed in this amazing orange light. The men look for the source of the light, and looking out the space station window, they notice a strange gaseous formation.
This gaseous formation morphs and evolves as they're watching it, until just like in the German man's video, it transforms itself into a kind of angelic shape.
They saw not 1, but 7 angelic figures, and these shapes were colossal.
Each of these angels was claimed by the cosmonauts to be the size of an airliner.
The 3 men had spent 155 days in low Earth orbit. Their bodies and minds were subjected to incredible stresses and pressures. In such conditions, even the toughest people can suffer mental and physical disintegration.
It does make you wonder whether, as their fellow crew felt, they were experiencing some kind of hallucination. This can happen to people who are in isolation.
The cosmonauts were tempted to put it down to some form of space madness, but when the relief crew arrives at the space station, they report seeing the angelic figures as well.
2 separate sightings by multiple witnesses. What's going on here?
The angelic figure filmed from the plane window is the first time such a figure has been captured convincingly on camera. Its odd, morphing appearance reminds some of one of the universe's most mysterious substances.
The strange shape might point to an even more bizarre phenomena, something totally different, a plasma creature visiting Earth.
Plasma is often called the 4th state of matter, not a gas, solid, or liquid, but a soup of electrons, positive ions, and neutral particles. And it makes up to 99% of all visible matter in the universe.
Many physicists believe it's the very first state of matter, since it was the state to form most immediately after the Big Bang.
And scientist Vadim Tistovich believes that as we hunt for life in the cosmos, this substance is where we should be looking.
In 2007, Sistovich even proposed that some plasma could in fact be alive. This plasma form of life would be very, very different from the carbon-based form of life, which is what we're very familiar with. And it would display properties and have capabilities that would be nothing like anything we'd seen before.
A plasma being could potentially change form indefinitely, appear and disappear at will, and survive in the vacuum of space.
It's not only out there where plasma life could exist. Crucially, it could exist here on Earth, alongside us, working with us, but undetectable to the senses that we have.
History is littered with stories of strange visions, ghosts, and even solid objects that seem to defy the laws of physics.
Could this alternate form of life that exists alongside us be manipulating light and matter in a way that produces these strange shapes and objects that move and behave in ways that we don't have the technology to reproduce?
Could it warp the reality around us such that our perception is that we see aliens and spacecraft? And if that's the case, could living plasma have been doing this for millennia, creating the perception of things that have haunted us?
Computer scientist and UFO investigator Jacques Vallée believes so. He hypothesizes in his 1975 book, The Invisible College, that plasma entities may have played a role in influencing the human race for generations.
But why would living plasma do this? To what end? What would be the purpose? And is it benevolent or malevolent? If we had to wage a war against a plasma-based enemy, how would we ever do it?
What powers UFOs? They seem to fly at incredible speeds without any visible source of propulsion or aerodynamism. A professor at Stanford University has come across a mysterious lump of metal that might be the key to unlocking alien engineering.
Dr. Gary Nolan is a well-respected microbiologist and geneticist with a deep interest in UAPs.
Nolan is friends with Dr. Jacques Vallée, a computer scientist, physicist, and UFO researcher who spends his time investigating reported UAP crashes.
In 2017, one particular object in Dr. Vallée's collection catches Gary's eye. It's a fragment of pure magnesium, which came from the Museo del OVNI, a UFO museum in Argentina. Magnesium is a common metal on Earth, making up 13% of the mass of the planet. But this chunk, given to Gary Nolan, is special.
This is truly extraordinary. Material evidence recovered from UAP incidents is incredibly rare.
Nolan analyzes the isotope ratios of the fragment and makes a remarkable discovery.
The magnesium's composition is unlike any known metal. The isotope ratios in the sample do not appear to exist anywhere on Earth.
And to the best of man's knowledge, such isotope ratios don't occur naturally anywhere else in the universe either.
A change in the isotope ratio of a material suggests that it was manufactured by a very sophisticated being.
Could something otherworldly have created it?
Magnesium is a remarkable metal for space travel. It's immensely light, strong, and can also withstand deep space radiation. So it would make sense for an alien craft to be constructed using it.
The museum says the object came from a sailor, but offer no further clues as to where it came from. But its shape and remarkable composition immediately reminds ufologists of an incident said to have occurred at the coastal town of Ubatuba in Brazil in 1957. Ibrahim Sood, a Brazilian journalist, receives an anonymous letter which recounts a peculiar incident.
The author of the letter describes being out fishing with friends when out of nowhere, a large flying disc comes hurtling towards them. Then it explodes, disintegrating into thousands of bright fragments. And he encloses one in the envelope for Sued.
The writer claims to be a fan of Sued's Society column. The letter is written in very good Portuguese, and this is clearly a well-educated person.
This event is widely believed to be the origins of the magnesium. So what could this flying disc have been?
Coral Lorenzen, founder of the Aerial Phenomenon Research Organization, APRO, in Arizona, claimed that Dr. Oliver Fontes, who was investigating the case, was visited in 1958 by two members of a Brazilian intelligence agency.
They threatened Fontes. They warned him that he was inquiring into matters that did not concern him, and they tried to coerce him into handing over all of his materials related to the metals.
Is this evidence that the Ubatuba magnesium is part of a government cover-up?
In the original letter, the writer alludes to what could have been a military cover-up. He writes, unless the finding was made by military authorities and the whole thing kept as a top-secret subject.
The bizarre object could be linked to a vicious arms race that was raging between Brazil and its at the height of the Cold War.
The two Latin American giants were ruled by authoritarian military dictatorships.
Argentina was determined to have its own nuclear weapons and hired former Nazi scientists to help create atomic devices. Brazil had to respond or face a powerful, deadly neighbor against whom they would have no defense.
4 years before the Ubatuba event, Brazil's interest in nuclear technology became evident. Admiral Alberto, the National Research Council director, went to West Germany to purchase ultracentrifuges, which were used to enrich uranium isotopes for nuclear weapons.
But neither country truly had the money or the technology to enter the nuclear arms race like the USSR or USA.
Even if there was some military cover-up operation, it wouldn't explain the engineered isotopes in the magnesium.
The composition of the magnesium is so unique, it's unlikely it could have been made as a byproduct of South American experimentation. And this weird magnesium has been discovered elsewhere following an explosive close encounter with a UFO.
At 11:26 p.m. in Maumeo, Ohio, a collision takes place involving a car that's being driven by two Navy veterans. They witness an intense light in the middle of the pavement that causes them to swerve and crash. Sometime later, the driver reported finding some fibrous metal on the car, which was then analysed and found to be 92% magnesium.
According to Canadian researcher Wilbert Smith, in 1952, a Navy pilot was pursuing a flying disc when he saw a glimmering object detach from the disc and fall to the ground. A sample was recovered, and it was reportedly comprised of magnesium.
The discharged magnesium could be a clue as to how these objects fly.
Some UFO researchers propose that liquid metal could be waste material from a craft's highly advanced propulsion system.
Dr. Jacques Vallée hypothesizes an advanced technology for a nuclear design for a craft's power plant, which uses a liquid metal as its working fluid. This is a nuclear process known as beta decay, in which power is created in the form of free electrons. In these types of craft, depleted fluid may occasionally need to be ejected in the form of magnesium. It's certainly possible that somebody could have been testing a metal-cooled reactor-driven flying craft, but back in 1957, I mean, this is only 20 years after the first jet engine aircraft. I mean, does that really seem feasible?
So, could it be that liquid metal is powering the alien craft, or cooling it, or maybe both?
Liquid metal is better than water because it removes heat more rapidly and allows for a higher power density.
Liquid metal coolants are already in use on nuclear submarines.
A massively advanced version of this could be powering these objects that we see in the sky.
If this is a true fragment of a UFO's propulsion system, we may be looking at the most significant piece of evidence yet in our hunt for the truth about these elusive objects.
Is this the first piece of physical evidence for a technologically superior extraterrestrial civilization?
If Nolan's discovery is real, well, this would be the biggest clue, the best clue that we have in the hunt for the truth about UFOs. A real piece of an alien craft that we can prove came from another solar system, or maybe even another reality.
China is a bit of an enigma. On one hand, you have these incredible historical contributions, even up to today. On the other hand, they at times censor their own people to the point where normal accepted information that is readily available to the masses of the world, for some reason, are kept out of the hands of the Chinese.
Everyone in the West asks, what does China know about UFOs? And do their citizens see UFOs as often as people in the West? And what is China doing to investigate?
November the 29th, 2021, Henan, China. A man films an object descending to Earth, flooding the night sky with bright blue light.
Some residents say they were woken up by the loud explosion.
The traffic-stopping sight was captured on multiple cameras in the region. Some say it's nothing more than a meteor. The problem is, we don't know what it is because of China's secrecy. But there's evidence that videos like this one might just be the tip of the iceberg, because the Chinese military, the People's Liberation Army, made an announcement in 2021 that the huge number of sightings in China meant it was taking unprecedented action.
There have been so many that they've responded with an artificial intelligence program designed to track what they call rapidly increasing accounts of unidentified air conditions.
This presents quite an issue for us in the West, because whenever UAPs are seen, for example, in the United States, the blame has often fallen at the feet of hypothetical new technology, which might well be Chinese. So, for example, a super capable drone.
So if UFOs are Chinese drones, the country's announcement of a computer program to track them could be a piece of subterfuge, an attempt to confuse the West and sow disinformation. But China watchers say there's another clue about what the superpower knows about UFOs. And it takes the form of a science fiction novel.
The three-body problem tells a terrifying story of alien contact and an alien invasion of Earth.
The book is a well-written and exciting adventure story by Liu Cixin, a computer engineer whose parents were forced to work in mines during the terror of China's Cultural Revolution.
In China, nothing cultural happens by accident. All books, films, and music are heavily vetted by the ruling party for anything that could be problematic for the regime.
The bestseller list, like everything in China, is controlled by the ruling Communist Party. So if it's on the bestseller list, they want you to read it.
And this book is a bestseller. In China, it sold over 8 million copies and spawned 2 further novels in the Three-Body Problem trilogy.
It starts with a scientist who's part of a team who's looking for evidence of extraterrestrial life beyond our solar system. They receive the message, it's a warning. Do not respond to this message, as any response will give away humans' existence on Earth and be the catalyst for an invasion by this technologically advanced alien force on this far-off world.
The aliens in the book have a problem. Their planet orbits not 1, but 3 stars, causing wild and deadly fluctuations in the climate. They look on enviously at Earth as a much more stable planet that they can explore, invade, and colonize.
At its heart is an horrific idea, the dark forest theory.
If you are in a dark forest and you're afraid, you try to be quiet, but that doesn't mean that you're alone.
In a dark forest, there might be any number of animals that we simply can't see. Whether they're working aggressively or defensively, they might keep quiet and stay hidden as they assess any threat.
If dark forest theory is applied to our galaxy, it's rational for any intelligent species to keep quiet about their existence, as the inhabitants of Earth are urged to do in the book. As if a superior civilization detects your presence, they will be likely to attack. The theory is an attempt to explain one of the weirdest mysteries in the universe. The apparent disconnect between the complete silence we hear from the cosmos and the mathematical certainty that intelligent life must be out there.
The Drake equation is a formula created in 1961 that seeks to quantify how many intelligent civilizations there might be within the Milky Way galaxy. With this equation and modern research, current thinking suggests that there could be 300 million habitable planets in the Milky Way galaxy itself.
By astrophysicist Frank Drake's calculations, there are more than 30 technological civilizations in our galaxy.
There are just so many stars and so many frequency channels that we must make a very comprehensive search with very sophisticated equipment that allows us to search the whole radio spectrum in a very short time.
If the universe is so big and has been around for so long, it's statistically inevitable that aliens will come to Earth. So they can't exist unless we're in a dark forest.
The first intentional radio signal sent into space from Earth was the Arecibo signal in 1974. Which aimed at globular star cluster M13. But our signature as a civilization would have been visible to advanced aliens from as early as the 19th century, when factory smoke started to pollute our atmosphere, creating a detectable chemical trace of our presence. Probes might have been sent to check us out, but not attempt any kind of interaction.
Why would they make contact? If they did, we might kill them. And equally, we might kill them because we're afraid they might be dangerous to us.
In a dark forest, any noise could be perceived of as a threat, a danger. So any contact should be reacted to defensively. Attack is the best form of defense. It's kill or be killed, unless you stay quiet.
In the best-selling book, the aliens have already sent UFO-like probes ahead of an invasion fleet. Perhaps they look more like the object captured on film in November 2021.
The question I have is, are the Chinese aware of something that we're not? Or are they socializing this idea of UFOs? Hey, look, here's a book you should read, right? We're not telling you it's real, we're not telling you it's not real, just read it. Gets people reading and then asking questions and talking about it. So this could also be potentially a really clever way by the Chinese government to socialize its citizens, its population, its people, to an eventual disclosure that may be imminent in the near future.